Okay, so what I'm going to share with you are the things that I have experienced and tips that I can give when you're writing your paper, any academic paper. Because you know, guys, when you're writing something about a related, that's needed for school, a requirement for school, there's just a pattern that you would follow, especially um, if you need to write introductions, and then it will only vary on the body um, of the of the written output, because sometimes it would depend on what your professors or your teachers are asking from you. All right. So most likely, what's found, or the ideas that should be found on the introduction and then the summary conclusion, are almost not the same content but same idea. Okay. So like for example, for introduction, you need to we need to introduce the topic, and you need to establish that if you're asked for the importance, of course you need to open a little knowledge, or a little um, stored or research-based knowledge about it, so that your paper would have a strong background. But most likely, when you're at introduction, yes, you introduce. If there's a need to introduce a problem, you establish it in such a way that there is what you call the specific to general establishments of ideas, and expounding of before you expound to the topic per se. Summary, you sum up everything all the highlights of what you've written. Then conclusion, it's your personal insight, what you've learned from what you've written. So that's basically that's all those are the things that you need to remember when you're writing academic paper. But for the sake of writing an ultimate academic paper in the future, which is the thesis, so we will be discussing it for our last day of discussion now. Okay, so thesis, it is so it is a proposition stated or put forward for consideration, especially one to be discussed and proved to be maintained against objections. So it vigorously he vigorously defended on the thesis on the cause of the war. It's something that is novel that you need to research on. There's one thing that I've got from my professor way back, that if you can answer the problem, or you can think of answers to an issue, to a problem, that's already been pertinent. Say for example, you want to research on how to destroy computer virus. If you can already answer it by searching over the internet, then that's not researchable. That's not a good thesis. That's not a good thesis or research paper. Again, that's one tip. If you're going to write a proposal or ask for approval for the title, you ask yourself. Okay, that's why it's important that you research also. Search the Google for if it's already researchable. Prior research. If you cannot find any article or or there are very few articles to answer your question about something about something that needs that's related to your course, then can consider that as researchable. If you would notice, I don't know if, but as what I've noticed, those titles that seems to be nonsense, or let's say it's you're somehow, when you were thinking it, you were joking about it. Say for example, your group, and then it just it just came out of the blue. In short, it's just like you're nagagaguhan lang when you were asked, because you're on the verge of giving up. Many people or many students approve to this, that the ones or the titles which they did not think of thoroughly, yun nga, the term is the gaguhan title, is the one that's being approved. Why? Because somehow at the back of your head, it's something that you think would not be accepted. When someone, they're always called, Ma'am, actually, kagaguhan lang namin yan. Nagbibiruan lang kami, nag-joke lang kami when we were formulating that. And we didn't expect na yan pa po yung map. Because also, perhaps, the teacher, for instance, I also got curious on the title. Oh, I think this is quite interesting. So that's that's common. So do not be disappointed in the future, or when the title that you've thoroughly thought of, there's so many background studies about, hindi na approve. Kung sino pa yung walang masyadong, the one that has it, that was not well prepared. That's the one that stirred the curiosity of your teacher. It's because the one that you prepared for, it's already there. Don't need to propose it because you've already answered everything. Again, if your proposal, if the title that you're thinking of is already answerable and searchable in the internet, do not pursue about it. There. So the more novel and unique your proposal is, or your title is, that you seemingly, it's more like of like kalokohan, it's okay. Okay, so yun. Okay, initially, you have this part. How do you have this? First question, where do you get the pattern? So institutionally, the pattern rather is always based on the institution. So if you would notice, you would ask, why is it that our pattern for writing our thesis our research paper when we were in senior high is different from what's being used here in BSIT, because it's institutional. The institution will have, per institution, or somehow, if the institution shared the same pattern or format, but that's not really happening usually. It follows the format it's provided for in their research manual. All right. So in here, so in BSIT, there is a research manual, but according to the research center, research center to our to the ones handling research, they are the research manual is under renovation. Is being revised. So I was asking for that for a long time already, but they seem to have it. The revision seems to have not been is not yet done yet. It's not done yet. Okay, so how if you're gonna ask how, ma'am, how are we going to how are we going to know the format of these parts? So what I can suggest in the future, if you will be doing this and we do not have the research manual yet, you visit the library and then you go to this, you ask for permission if you can visit the thesis section of the library, and then from there you can browse through the thesis of the graduate students or the undergrad students, and then you see the pattern that they have used or the format that they have used, technical format that they have used for these parts. So of course, the title page, the common content of the title page is the title, the names of the authors, or the name of the author, whether it's a bachelor or a master thesis, what faculty, what department, and also the impartial fulfillment line, and also the date and the place of completion. Sometimes there's no place of completion, just the date and the month and the year of completion. Okay. Again, this title page is institutional also. So you better ask or check the library for reference for the format of the title page in the future. I do not require title page on or integrative paper. Okay. Approval sheet also will be provided by the professor, especially by your advisor in the future. Okay. And in this is already that it's already templated, and it's already ready for you. All you need to have is to fill it out with your names and then the names of your advisor, the panel members, the dean, or if your institution will be, institute will be asked also that, and also the title of your research. So abstract. There's also institutional format for abstract, but most likely abstracts are written after the research is complete, because it's the summary and the highlights of all the parts of the paper. So institutions usually requires 200 to 300 words of abstract only. Okay, next. Acknowledgement and dedication. Sometimes they are combined, but sometimes it's just acknowledgement. Sometimes the dedication is omitted. Acknowledgement. Thank everyone that has been part of your journey doing the research. Table of contents, again, format could be found on the research manual, or if not, you check the format in the library. Okay. Again, tips on writing this. Of course, this would be easier if you already have completed your paper. Also, this one, it's already printed. My suggestion is that you print a draft copy of the paper, and then that's the time that you will list down everything. Or if you're a pair, open the document or the thesis on the laptop of your partner, their thesis partner or group mate if it's a group, and then another laptop to write and compose the tables and list of tables and figures, and also the table of contents. Okay. Titles of chapters. You usually ask, why is it that there are 5 chapters, and why is it that there are only 4 chapters? It's because some institutions, again, it's institutional. Some institutions have 5 chapters because they would separate the review of related literature chapter and conceptual framework from the chapter 1. The discussion. So again, when we say why, because some universities will or colleges would combine review of related literature and chapter 1. Just like in BSIT, we have the review of related literature. The review of related literature inside the problem of the statement of the problem. I mean the problem and its background. Okay. So if you would notice, it's really difficult to teach if there's no research manual available. But if you would see, or if you would check the formats, you check the formats of your the format in the library. Sometimes, or usually, you would find review of related literature on chapter 1 after the background of the study. Anyway, there are just 2 parts of the review of related literature chapter. It's the review of related literature, the RRL and the RRS, and then the conceptual framework. So why separate it pa? Right? So kinambine na lang siya. But in some references, there are 4, or there are 3, or there are 5 rather. There are 5 chapters. Okay, so let's have this one by one. So for in the introduction, when I was writing the introduction, I got a tip from a co-teacher from last semester that when you write introduction, you need to first have a general definition. Say for example, on my thesis for masters, my topic or my title was developing an infographic making module to teach digital writing and digital writing among the first year students of education, English major. Naglagom na ng mga something like that. But the core topic there, or the core element then, is infographic making, digital writing, or the use of ICT and multimedia when you teach, right? So general topic. There are so many people coming. You say hi again. Say hi again.
Hi, Jenny.
Okay. All right. So you are going to introduce what a general, the main core of your title. On my part, the title that I had its core is infographic making. So I defined infographic first, or infographic making first. So what is it? What's the use of it? I mean, what is it? Next, I've already, after that, hey, where are going? Mimi's there. Okay. Then after that, I've established where is it used. The global use of infographic was usually for marketing. Of course, my target is is it used in education? So I've searched that. Well, powering Google is very reliable, but make sure that you, like I said, make sure that you use legit sources, those that are published and certified, verified also. There. So I've discovered upon looking into looking up for info about infographics on education. So there, it was already globally used. So as you can see, it's a general thought. From the general thought, then I go the international. Okay, it's what's globally used in other countries. So next thing that you need to check is is it used? Is it used for educate for in the Philippines? You check that. So locally, I've checked it. Oh yes, it's also used in marketing. Then you stream, or again you check. Since I've checked that it is used in education, in the infographics are used in education for international scene, I should also check if there is the use of infographic in the Philippines. See, although I already have a prior knowledge that there is none. So that's the problem. That's the establishment of, or there's a deficiency, there's a limitation that you need to address on. It is already globally used. It's already been years. I've discovered that it's been years. It's a decade already that people from the education, from the academic scene, international academic scene, has been using infographics for the longest time. But why is it that we are left behind? So that's the problem. I need to what are the reasons why it hasn't been adopted in the Philippine educational system? So I need to find that out. See, I've established there is from the title. It's not about how long your introduction will be, but how you're gonna establish your introduction. All right. So background of the study. Now you already somehow see you have a peek that you already have a bird's eye view that there is a limited resources of this of info of say for example on my part infographic in the Philippines. Then on the background of the study, you you start on the use of you add more resources, and you add more resources to rationalize the need for infographic making, or on teaching infographic on my part. On teaching, I rationalize why I need to do this project or to do the research. You reason out. You establish more that there is a problem that you need to address. In the Philippines, ito lang yung ginagamit, yun yung sinabi ko. That's what I said. In the Philippines, these are, but it seems that we are already left behind from the other countries. And if you're gearing towards the 21st century learning that's being promoted in other countries, we need to establish that. There. Okay, So introduction. So next is, okay, dapat the statement of the problem. So when you do the statement of the problem, you just state in a part, because there's gerund. In English, there is gerund, there is participial, okay? You need to write it on that form, okay? So say, for example, in participial form, so the the researcher aims to then you restate your title. On my part, the researcher aims to develop an infographic my title is developing, so to develop an infographic making module to teach digital writing among the first year students of Bulacan Agricultural State College. Something like that. And then specifically, there are two types of writing the specific objectives. Or some institution would want a question type. Some would have it objectives or imperative type. So if it, again, check the research manual or the format in the library. I think it's in BSIT it's question type. But on my part, it was objective. It was imperative type. So statement. So the first question, so first, what are the things that you need to consider when you are writing a statement of the problem? First, you need to writing the statement of the problem naman kasi you will be guided by once you already have the proposal defense, you will be guided if your statement of the problem would really answer the challenges on your type that you have established on your study. So on my end, there is a deficiency. Of course, I need to know first what are the prior knowledge and the knowledge gap of the students. Because one solution that I have thought of is to make a module. Yun nga, that's my title. To develop a module that would address the gap. So how would I know the gap? I should know what are their prior knowledge and what are their knowledge gap. Ano yung alam na nila and ano yung kulang sa kanila. So from there, yung module na yun yung mag-bridge doon sa gap. So of course, ang una kong question is determine the knowledge gap on infographic making and digital writing. Next, next is establish. Next is so that how would I do that to determine? I would have to administer pre-test to diagnose what they already know and what do they lack, what are the things or what are the knowledge that they lack when it comes to infographic making and knowledge gap. And then from there, knowing what's the gap, I've developed the infographic making module, and then implement that to the participants, and then what we call, and then test again if the gap was addressed. So determine on my end, I determined and then I developed and then implemented and then assess. Implement and assess. Implement the module and then evaluate, assess and evaluate the learning of the students. Yun. Conceptual framework, on my end, I use experiential learning theory. So it says that by experience, you know things. So nowadays, yung technology kasi would only be learned best if you can have a hands-on experience on that. Because based on what I've seen and also from what I've experienced before when I was in high school and college, in order for us to really remember the procedures on doing something with a computer, we do hands-on activities. It's not effective that it's on the book or it's just on it's just being discussed inside the classroom. There should be a hands-on experience when you do something or when you learn something technological. So the module that I've created was just a guide, but then they need to have a gadget on doing so. So that's experiential learning theory. So it's if it's theoretical, what's the difference between conceptual framework and theoretical framework? If it's conceptual framework, it's out of a concept. You've already implemented the theory that you've thought of. All right. And now, if it's theoretical, it's just theory based. Okay. Scope and limitation. Again, you go back to your title. This would only be discussing infographic making and digital writing, apart from and not much of the macro skills. And learning with the senses. Yon. That's my limitation. That's my scope. My limitation. I will only be studying or implementing my study among the students of education, and within the walls or within Bulacan Agricultural State College. So why is it important that you establish it? So that pag tinanong kayo ng panel members nyo, ay ng panelists, ang sagot, bakit hindi nyo sinama si ganito? Nakalagay, it's stipulated in our scope and limitation that we'll only have this. Actually, guys, the purpose of defense is not only rationalizing or reasoning out why your paper is important, but also if your paper is really good, that is too good to be true, some panel members would just try to test if you really know your paper very, very well. Some panel members have questions for clarification or validation of the paper, but then to see or to give you feedback what to need to improve on. But some panel members would just try to test if you really know your paper. That's based on my experience. So probably because my paper was almost 350 pages. So I think they haven't had the time to really read everything. So there. Okay, next. Definition of terms. So when definition of terms is not really, you need to define everything that every word in your paper. Only the highlights. The most important um, terms that you that is presented, or new terms that are presented on your paper, not exactly everything. Enter and define it according to how it's been used on the paper. So chapter 2, or still included on chapter 1, I forgot, significance of the study. You start with the most beneficial persons or people, rather the person, people who will benefit from your study. Okay, down to the least. Next is review of related literature. Literature comes from, related lit comes from books, magazines, and newspapers. The ones that are published. Related studies are unpublished ones. Pwedeng common research, empirical studies, ganun. But sometimes, mixed up na tong dalawa na to. So, because of the advent of the digital format. So, methodology, research, ito na yung how are you going to do this? Chapter 2 ito. So, sa proposal, ang laman ay chapter 1 and 2. Chapter 1 at chapter 2 yung methodology. Research design, I'm not quite familiar with the statistical parts of not quite familiar with the statistical part of research. Ang alam ko lang kasi standard deviation. Kasi yun lang talaga yung kailangan ko dun sa paper ko. Hindi naman ako ganun ka sa isa math. But I ask assistance from experts if I need to do further mathematics. But so far, di naman ako gumawa ng masyadong mathematics sa dun sa aking paper. Standard deviation ang ginamit ko kasi mixed methods yung sa akin. Qualitative, quantitative, and then triangulated pa. Dalawa yung qualitative ko. Kasi the development of my paper alone is qualitative, or the module alone is qualitative. And then nag-FGD pa ako. So it's quanti because there is pre-test test, and then I've developed that's quali, and then I have had FGD. So tatlo. Okay. How would you, what is research design? Yun nga, you will establish if it is quali, quanti, or production, and or quali, quanti, or quali lang, quanti lang. What's the beauty of quanti? Quanti, magko-compute ka lang na magko-compute survey. Yung quali, but you need to have many samples. Because sasabihin lang naman nila, mag-survey lang naman yan, mag-fill up lang ng form or ng questionnaire. So why not have many? Para mas maraming papatunay na, or marami ka talagang pinagtanungan, hindi yung 10 lang. Kasi halos, or you compute for the yung may margin of error pa na sinasabi, Sloven. Yan. Ganon. So, in order for you to do that, you need to know first how many. Say, for example, first-year students. So, you need to know the data of how many are the first-year students in BSIT. And then you need to determine, is it per college, per institute, or per section? Or perhaps how are we going to divide equally the participants from the 4 institutes that has programs? right? So that's one. It's the pros of having quantities. If you have the survey, distribute it and then tabulate. It's just that there's so many, especially if there is a huge population that you have targeted. Meanwhile, for qualitative, see, it's which nowadays it's more suggested because they found out that they get realistic and unique answers out of interviews. They find um, they find authentic responses out of interviews. Okay, so that's why even though you have only 15 respondents, and that is interview, and that is narrative, it's already but enough and strong. Because analyzing it thematically alone is a tedious work. So, say for example, if you're good in math, so I'm giving you tips. If you're good in math, do the survey. But nowadays, survey alone is not much accepted. They people are your panel members would suggest, why not do it? Why not do mixed methods? Wherein you have the survey and then after that you'll have the FGD. So that you'll have additional information about your topic. All right. In qualitative, there you would just have thematic analysis. That's based on my experience. Quanti. So I've had sampling method. What I had was purposive sampling for the first part, for the quantitative part, because in purposive sampling, that's the sampling that I've used. So that's what I'm knowledgeable about. So you need to, I set a criteria on who will be my respondents. So the criteria were first year students should belong to education, are studying this subject. So I had two sections. Okay. So I did the pre-test, the post-test. Then I had the second sampling technique. So out of these 40 students, I need to have people that will participate for my FGD. So I took 20% of each sections. 20%. Basta, overall, I had 15 participants for my FGD. And it's recorded, and then transcribed, and then thematically, I've analyzed everything. Research instrument, it could be adapted, it could be adopted, or could be researcher made. If it's adopted with the A, there is an existing research material, a research tool that was used from a previous empirical research. When you say empirical, pareho kayo ng research. You have the same topic, naiba lang ng konti sa sa location, siguro sa respondents, yun. But you're going to adopt adapt and modify that that research instrument or tool. If you're going to adopt entirely, gagamitin mo siya, wala kang babaguhin. Researcher made medyo matrabaho kasi you need to validate the instrument first before mo siya gamitin dun sa yun. Usually, 3 dapat yung expert na mag-validate niyan. And sometimes it would take time. Yung pag-validate ng instrument, that aabot ng taon, pinaswerte ka pagka umabot ng mga 3 buwan lang. Syempre, compute mo pa yan, tabulate mo pa, and everything. Okay? Data gathering procedure. So, kanina na-establish ko na, di ba? Nung sinabi ko pa lang yung statement of the problem, ng what I did. Data gathering procedure and data processing procedure. Statistical treatment ko kasi parang naglagay lang ako ng parang kinompute yung standard deviation, tapos meron akong pag yung okay. Ito muna tayo sa data gathering procedure. You make the narrative of how we're going to do your research step by step. Kaya dapat may idea ka na. Okay, I would want first I would determine determine the knowledge gap. How I would administer this. I would administer a pretest among the participants. From the pretest, the data that will be gathered would be used to create a module that would address the knowledge gap from among the students. Next, so administer. Then, assess. Yung sa akin na, on my part. So, on your end, kung paano ninyo, somehow, you can get the guidance here of your advisors. And how to really proceed with everything. Okay? Statistical data, if it's qualitative, thematic analysis. Because actually, it's not statistical. It's analysis, treatment of data. And then, for the quanti, yun nga, I use standard deviation, kinompute yung, and parang, pinakompute ko lang sa expert. And then, discussion sa akin, ganito yan, ganito yan, ganito. You can ask, kaya lang, magbabayad kasi kayo pag nagpa-compute kayo sa expert. Ayun na lang kung kayo ay marunong na talaga sa basic statistics. Ako, syempre, gusto kong makasure, kaya nagpa-compute ako sa experts. Okay? And then, yun nga, if this, at this point, at this number, 2.6, pag ito yung score ng tabulation ng answers, pag ito yung score nila, meaning to say, meron silang gap. Pagka naman, 2.6 and below, may gap sila. Pagka 2.6 and 2.61 and above, wala, they have prior knowledge. Yun. So kayo din, on your end, you're looking for, what do you call this? You're gonna study on the analysis of the knowledge of e-waste management. Halimbawa, among the students of, halimbawa, among the students or among the employees ng ganitong company. Paano nga ba analysis? Say, for example, they have adequate knowledge, may ganito kang criteria. They have insufficient knowledge, ganitong criteria. Ganon. Okay, presentation. Ito na yung tabular. So lahat, to present this, i-state mo muna yung question number or yung question number 1 from the statement of the problem. And then, lahat ng sagot, if it's survey, lahat ng items, numbers na makakasagot noong question number 1 mo. I mean, the objective number 1 mo, yun ang iahanay mo, or you're gonna present that on your on the presentation on your question number 1. So you have the table, the graphs, and then below that you write a narrative description of the table. Okay, on this table, on table number 1, it states that blah 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 blah. It's 2.6% of the participants said that they have adequate knowledge in writing. 3% only 3%, and so on. Alright? Interpretation, sa baba ng konti. So it is interpreted that they are, usually dito na papasok yung may extreme, may verbal, may mga verbal interpretation. So out from the result, it was said that 3% of the employees are extremely satisfied, something like that. And then, sa baba din, also, pwede mo na ilagay yung, kunyari, sa qualitative, naka-mixed method ka eh. Qualitative, nung nag-interview ka, ano yung related doon sa sagot, yung sagot na, kung may nakuha kang sagot doon sa interviewer, na relate, na pwedeng mag-support doon sa results nitong tables mo, lagay mo yun. Okay? Next, chapter 5 or chapter 4, the summary. Highlights. Summary is the highlights of each part. Or, and then, conclusion, you write all the answers, the important answers of your, the important answers that you find out from your data on chapter 3. And then recommendation, ito na, ano ngayon yung nakakita mo na use ng mga sagot? Say for example, on my end, okay, I would recommend that from senior high, MIL should give emphasis on and also language learning. Okay, para pagdating sa college, so that when they reach college, they would have sufficient knowledge, or if not sufficient, and knowledge for making infographics will just enhance their knowledge, not develop. Enhance kasi is meron na siya meron na siya sapat lang. Yung develop walang-wala. Enhance, there is already something. Parang hindi pa siya umaabot doon sa level na dapat niyang abutin. So you need to enhance. Okay, improve yung parang meron ng something, sapat na rin, pero gustong panghigitan. Yun. Pag-develop kasi, walang-wala talaga. There. Yun. Question so far?